Hi everyone, good evening. I'm Shreya Dhoundiyal. Today I want to talk to you about my profession, my job. In their wisdom, the founding fathers of our great democracy call the media the fourth pillar of democracy. An institution that first and foremost, above anything else, is a medium to inform. To inform you about the good, the bad and the ugly around you. To inform you when a neta is caught taking a bribe. To inform you when a government doesn't deliver on its promise. To inform you what the courts are saying. To inform you that things like climate change cannot be dismissed as hype. Our first and foremost job is to inform you, not provoke you, to inform you. And to do so without fear or favor. So when the free press is under attack, as it is in many parts of the world, including here in India, what is also under attack is your right to know, your right to be informed. And as you know, the institution of the media has been under relentless attack. From Delhi to Kochi, media houses are bearing the brunt of dissent. It happened with the BBC in Delhi. It has happened with Asianet in Kochi. Let me tell you what has happened in Kerala. Yesterday, the Kochi police raided the office of a very popular Malayali news channel called Asianet. This happened in North Kerala, and it happened in connection with a case related to allegedly fabricating a news story. The office was raided after a complaint was filed by an independent and a CPM-backed leader, PV Anwar. It alleged that the news channel, in one of its reports, used a minor to enact the statement of a class 9 student who was a victim of drug abuse and sexual assault. However, the raids at the Asianet's office haven't gone down very well with the opposition. The opposition in Kerala has slammed the Pinarayi Vijayan government and said that action against Asianet is nothing but a sign of intolerance against protests, criticism or questioning those in power. In fact, the opposition has said that there's no difference between the Pinarayi Vijayan government and Prime Minister Modi because the Prime Minister used the IT Act to raid BBC offices and the Kerala Chief Minister used cops to raid Asianet offices, basically to muzzle the voices of the free press. Now, amidst criticism, Kerala's Chief Minister Pinarayi Vijayan has defended the move. Take a listen to what the opposition has said and then what Pinarayi Vijayan said.
ഇതിന്റെ വിഷയം ഈ പ്രശ്നത്തിൽ ഉൾപ്പെട്ടിട്ടേയില്ല. ക്രിമിനൽ കുറ്റകൃത്യത്തിൽ ഏർപ്പെടുന്ന വ്യക്തിക്കെതിരെ നിയമപരമായി നടപടിയെടുക്കുന്നത് ബന്ധപ്പെട്ട വ്യക്തിയുടെ തൊഴിൽ എന്താണെന്ന് നോക്കിക്കൊണ്ടല്ല. അങ്ങനെ ചെയ്യാൻ നിയമം അനുവദിക്കുന്നുമില്ല. മാധ്യമപ്രവർത്തനത്തിൻ്റെ ഭാഗമായി വ്യാജ വീഡിയോ നിർമ്മാണവും അതിൻ്റെ സംപ്രേഷണവും വരുന്നില്ല. അത് മാധ്യമപ്രവർത്തനത്തിൻ്റെ ഭാഗമല്ല. പ്രായപൂർത്തിയാകാത്ത ഒരു പെൺകുട്ടിയെ അവൾ അറിയാതെ അതിൽ പെടുത്തുക കൂടി ചെയ്തിട്ട് മാധ്യമപ്രവർത്തനത്തിൻ്റെ പരിരക്ഷ വേണമെന്ന് പറയുന്നത് അത് ധീരമായ പത്രപ്രവർത്തനം.
Opposition bite. And Congress MP Rahul Gandhi has once again raked up the BBC survey and said that anyone who questions the government is attacked, and the same has happened with the BBC as well. He also said if BBC changes its stance and starts speaking for the BJP, its troubles would come to an end immediately. Listen in to what Rahul Gandhi has said.
If the BBC stops writing against the government, everything will go back to normal. All the cases will disappear. Everything will go back to normal. Right? So this is the new idea of India. The BJP wants India to be silent, right? And they want it to be quiet. They want the Dalits, the lower caste, the Adivasis, the media. They want silence. And they want silence because they want to be able to take what is India's and give it to their close friends.
Let me go across to four journalists who are joining me on the broadcast this evening on the Urban Debate. Ashutosh is now a political analyst, began his career as a journalist. Vaibhav Purandare is senior editor of the Times of India. Madhavan Narayanan is a senior journalist, and Harshvardhan Tripathi is a senior journalist as well. So it's good to have all the four of you here. Harshvardhan Tripathi, you know, the BBC survey in Delhi is now being compared to what is happening in Kerala. In Kerala, the government is saying, look, you cannot say that the raid on Asianet has anything to do with criticism or clamping down on free press. This was a news organization that was spreading fake news, which is why we needed these raids to take place. But help me understand, how does a raid correct fake news? If there is fake news, you call out that fake news. You don't go raid an office, because when you go and raid a media organization, you are intimidating them, or at least that is the impression that is going out.
श्रेया, सबसे पहले कहूंगा कि पत्रकार मतलब ये नहीं कि हम कुछ भी गलत करें और उसको हम सही ठहराएं कि नहीं ठीक है हम गलत कर रहे हैं तो हमारे ऊपर कोई भी आरोप नहीं लगना चाहिए, कोई एजेंसी हमारे ऊपर, हम किसी से ऊपर नहीं है, कोई प्रिविलेज हमें न तो कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में है न किसी तरह से कोई प्रिविलेज है। लेकिन किस तरह से कोई कार्रवाई होती है, कोई एक्शन कोई गवर्नमेंट एजेंसी लेती है, कोई पुलिस लेती है, वहां जाकर सवाल खड़ा होता है। एशिया नेट पर सिर्फ पुलिस ने कार्रवाई नहीं की है, एसएफआई के जो वर्कर्स हैं, उनके जो एक्टिविस्ट हैं, उन्होंने भी एशिया नेट के ऑफिस पर धावा बोल दिया। सवाल यह है कि क्या पिनराई विजयन की सरकार इस तरह की गुंडागर्दी को, वो कह रही कि हम जो लोग कुछ गलत कर रहे हैं उनके खिलाफ हम कर रहे हैं, और अगर कोई फेक न्यूज है तो आप निश्चित तौर पर अदालतें हैं, आप उसके ऊपर जिसको कहते हैं ना कि एक चेक कर सकते हैं, उसको करेक्ट कर सकते हैं, अदालत में जाकर उनके खिलाफ जो भी कार्रवाई हो सकती है, अगर वहां से सजा होगी तो वो सजा होनी चाहिए। लेकिन यहां तो बहुत साफ तौर पर दिख रहा है कि एक तो ये कि एशिया नेट सीधे तौर पर भारतीय जनता पार्टी के एक नेता से जुड़ता है, और दूसरा एशिया नेट ने पिछले कुछ समय में जो वहां की लेफ्ट गवर्नमेंट है उसके खिलाफ कई मुद्दों पर ऐसी खबरें दी जो उनको चुभती हैं, और इसी वजह से एशिया नेट के ऊपर ये कार्रवाई की गई है। मेरा ये मानना है कि प्रिविलेज कोई नहीं है, हम जर्नलिस्ट को कोई प्रिविलेज नहीं, और हम लोग इसके तैयार भी रहते हैं कि कोई कार्रवाई पुलिस की होगी। लेकिन जब इस तरह से कोई कार्रवाई होती है तो उस सरकार पर बड़े सवाल खड़े होते हैं, और डेमोक्रेसी के तौर पर मुझे लगता है कि कहीं भी हो, ये जब डेमोक्रेसी के तौर पर हम देखते हैं किसी जर्नलिस्ट पर, किसी मीडिया इंस्टीट्यूशन पर ऐसा कोई हमला हो रहा है, कोई एक्टिविस्ट जाके कर रहे हैं, किसी स्टूडेंट ऑर्गेनाइजेशन के लोग जाकर कर रहे हैं, तो वो ज्यादा खतरनाक दिखने लगता है।
लेकिन हर्षवर्धन, बिफोर आई गो टू आशुतोष, हर्षवर्धन त्रिपाठी, लेकिन क्या ये बात फिर बीबीसी के लिए भी अप्लाई करती है कि बीबीसी की जो डॉक्यूमेंट्री थी, द मोदी क्वेश्चन, नॉट it was critical of the prime minister and his role in the 2002 riots, तो लॉजिक तो फिर वो भी अप्लाई करता है कि यहाँ पे देखिए, बीबीसी की डॉक्यूमेंट्री मैंने देखी नहीं है, या मैं बीबीसी की डॉक्यूमेंट्री की बैटिंग भी नहीं करना चाहती हूँ। मैं ये कह रही हूँ दैट दे हैव अ पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू एंड दे हैड द राइट टू कीप दैट पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू। उन्होंने तो कोई फेक न्यूज भी नहीं फैलाई थी, फिर भी उनके ऊपर रेड्स हुई हैं। तो ये लॉजिक अगर केरला में अप्लाई करता है तो क्या ये लॉजिक दिल्ली में और बीबीसी पे भी अप्लाई करता है?
नहीं, मुझे लगता है कि अगर आईटी रेड्स जो पड़ी हैं उनमें से किसी पर भी, और मैंने तो बीबीसी का बयान सुना है श्रेया, मैं बड़ा आश्चर्यचकित हूं कि भारत के पत्रकार बीबीसी के लिए तो बैटिंग कर रहे हैं, लेकिन बीबीसी का अपना क्या वर्जन है, बीबीसी का अपना क्या बयान है, उन्होंने नहीं सुना। बीबीसी ने बहुत साफ तौर पर कहा है कि हमारे ऊपर कुछ ये आरोप हैं, ये जांच चल रही है, हमने अपने इंडिया ऑफिस के एम्प्लॉइज को, जर्नलिस्ट को कहा है कि वो कोऑपरेट करें, हम जल्द से जल्द रिजोल्यूशन की तरफ बढ़ेंगे। बीबीसी ने कोई आरोप नहीं लगाया है। अगर बीबीसी ने आरोप नहीं लगाया तो हम क्यों एज्यूम कर सकते हैं कि जो ये कार्रवाई हुई आईटी रेड की, और इसीलिए मैं कह रहा हूं कि दोनों का कंपैरिजन नहीं है। यहां एशिया नेट साफ साफ कह रहा है कि हमारे ऊपर जो कार्रवाई हुई है ये सरकार ने जानबूझकर कराई है, हमारे ऊपर जो वहां के उनके स्टूडेंट वर्कर्स हैं, जो ऑर्गेनाइजेशन है, वो हमला कर रहे हैं। दोनों को कंपेयर कैसे कर सकते हैं? और अगर हम मान लें, अगर हम एक क्षण के लिए मान लें कि बीबीसी के खिलाफ ये कार्रवाई जानबूझकर सरकार ने कराई है, क्योंकि टाइमिंग का मसला है, तो उसको आप क्रिटिसाइज करेंगे तो भी आप एशिया नेट और बीबीसी की कार्रवाई को किसी भी तरह से कंपेयर नहीं कर सकते। दोनों में जमीन आसमान का फर्क है।
आशुतोष, दोनों में क्या जमीन आसमान का difference hai, as Mr. Harshvardhan is saying?
Asking me? Sorry, who are we addressing the question to?
Ashutosh, can you hear me, Ashutosh?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Yeah.
My question is, Harshvardhan Tripathi is saying that don't compare a BBC and an Asianet. Don't compare the rates between the two because दोनों में ज़मीन आसमान का difference है. क्या दोनों में ज़मीन आसमान का difference है? Or is it part of the relentless attack on free press? If you have something uncomplimentary to say about the government of India, be prepared for a raid. Or the government of any state. Why just India?
Shreya, before replying on the BBC and others, let me first tell this frankly that CPM and the left front has lost the moral right to criticize Modi government and the BJP on the issue of freedom of press, on the issue of freedom of expression, because what they have been calling and what they have been criticizing about Narendra Modi, exactly the same thing is happening over here. Exactly the same thing is happening over here. So what right they had to criticize Narendra Modi and the BJP on the issue of BBC? This is a brazen state power which has been used by the CPM government. This is the brazen, arrogant use of state power by the Pinarayi Vijayan, and Pinarayi Vijayan is exactly replicating the same model to press and crush freedom of the press as it is exercised by Narendra Modi government and the BJP. That's very clear on that. I have no confusion on this issue. The point number two about the BBC. I think BBC is restrained in its direction. That does not justify the income tax survey done on the BBC. It's no way. Everybody knows, and it's quite clear. It's crystal clear that BBC has been surveyed by the income tax department for the simple reason because BBC has produced a documentary. Before this, not only this, the government of India under the cyber law has invoked the emergency laws to take down the video from the Google as well as from the Twitter. So if anybody is saying that the BBC and these are not comparable, I do not agree with that. It's today the press freedom in India is very fragile. Whether we accuse Narendra Modi government, or we accuse Pinarayi Vijayan, or we accuse the Mamata Banerjee government, or we accuse anybody, press is the biggest casualty there, and none of these. It has become a fashion to criticize and to arrest any journalist on a pretext of minor things. It has become a fashionable these days. So I have no problem and no qualms in criticizing and condemning what the left-front government has done with the Asianet.
Madhavan, Narayan, do you, as Ashutosh does, believe that press freedom in India is very fragile right now? It's under relentless attack, and you don't know how long independent media will keep standing under this attack. But more importantly, I want you to talk to our viewers about what this means for them. As I said in my introduction, what is the job of the press? It is not to provoke and have these chillam-chilli debates every day. The fundamental job of the press is to do what? Is to inform you about the good, bad and ugly that is happening around you.
Yeah.
If you muzzle the press, it means there is silence, that you don't get to hear the truth. And an informed viewer is an enlightened viewer. Is that why politicians, whether they are in Kerala, whether they are in West Bengal, whether they are sitting in Delhi or in Uttar Pradesh, are afraid when newspapers will call them out on their lies?
Absolutely. You know, Shreya, I was, first of all, two things. First of all, I want your viewers and our viewers to know that journalists are not stenographers. This is to say that our job is not to simply take people at face value. Otherwise, we will be stenographers. So if the BBC says that everything is hunky-dory and we are cooperating with the staff, it doesn't mean that BBC doesn't feel the pain of being attacked, which is why journalists as a tribe must hang together to support any attack on the freedom of the press, whether it comes from the left and right. I was actually comparing, or rather composing a cartoon where there's a boxing ring where the left is fighting the right, maybe you call it CPM and BJP or something, and instead of boxing with each other, they start punching the umpire, which is the media. So this is what is happening now, whether the hook comes from the left or the right. In the boxing ring, if the media is attacked in the political boxing ring, it goes against the institutional character of the media that you were actually talking about. Unfortunately, India doesn't have a First Amendment like the US. We do not have a special privilege for the media, but it doesn't mean that there is any law for raids. There is no meaningful IPC section for raiding the media. And we have to look at the context and not merely the face value, because journalists are supposed to be intelligently interpreting what is happening in the context, which can be political, which can be economic. We are like Saraswati, we are supposed to stand above Lakshmi and Parvati, which is politics and business. So that way, I feel that we need to actually concentrate on the institutional quality of the media, which is missing today. The fourth pillar is actually guard dog, and fourth pillar are terms that is taught in college and used in drawing room conversations. Unfortunately, the government, whether it is the CPM in Bengal, CPM in Kerala, the TMC in Bengal also needs to be called out, because it has been arresting people left, right, and center. A cartoonist was arrested. Now a Congress spokesperson has been arrested. So it's not just about, it is an attitude problem where a mobocracy is trying to take the place of an institutional democracy. So we need to stand together. And that is why I feel that sometimes technical objections, like the Kerala Asianet case is a case of a technical objection being raised. Similarly, the BBC was about income tax rates, and we all know it has nothing to do with income tax rates. And during Rajiv Gandhi's reign, the Bofors days exposes were uncomfortable for the Rajiv Gandhi government, and the Indian Express offices were raided by the Department of Revenue Intelligence. And you yourself, your team has been showing excellent slides of the various raids on media agencies and companies that have been going on for the past 3-4 years. I am completely with Ashutosh on this. Unfortunately, we have to educate the republic. We have to inform the citizens that nationalism doesn't mean absence of journalism. It only means stronger journalism, because we are not some ancient thing. You cannot be talking against China and behaving like China. You cannot be, our role models should not be Russia and China. I'm sorry. We are a civilization right from the times of Rig Veda. We have talked about an open society, and we are today attacking anybody who's actually talking of an open society or a free speech or media as an institution, as if we are anti-nationals. We are actually upholding the pillars of the Constitution. So that is why I feel media as a tribe
that's the worry.
Should understand that even if Asianet does biased reporting of one kind, or Wire does another kind of biased reporting, freedom, there is sufficient accommodation as long as there is no libel. And if there is libel, there should be proper defamation suits filed, not legal terrorism. So there is a case
not
for
raids.
Not a systematic understanding.
Not raids. I mean, if you have a problem with fake news, if you're accusing a media house of fake news, you don't send in a team of the police to raid them. That's not the way to deal with fake news. Purandare, is that the problem? That in the world we inhabit now, it's either you're with us or you're against us.
Unfortunately, that seems to be the case, Shreya. And in India, I would say that has always been the case. And I'll get to that in a bit. But before that, let me talk about the Kerala case. The Kerala case, the attack, the raid on Asianet is, of course, reprehensible and condemnable. But I think something really good can come out of it. Now, you might be wondering why I'm saying that something good can come out of it. The good thing that can and has already come out of it, in fact, and we need to focus more on that, is that the spotlight finally is on a great intellectual deception that has been practiced in India for decades. That deception is the conflation of the terms left and liberal. One thing we need to understand is that intolerance is not the exclusive preserve or property of a particular property or a particular political party. All political parties are intolerant, and while it's a reflexive thing to condemn attacks by the right wing, these terms, left and liberal, have been somehow conflated in India, and that intellectual deceit has unfortunately been bought into by large sections of the intelligentsia, by large sections of the media, and that has vitiated our public discourse on the subject of media freedom. The left was never democratic. The CPM was totally always allergic to any alternative viewpoint. The CPM hates privatization of media, but because Pravda was the mouthpiece of Soviet Russia, it wants the privatization of the media. And because Asianet is not becoming another Pravda, they have a problem with it. Unfortunately, the influence of the left extends well beyond their known enclaves, which is campuses and certain institutions. It actually captures the entire media space. Of course, now it has begun to cede that space, and others have begun to occupy that space. But we as journalists, I think we need to be very careful that we do not allow this kind of deception to go on for a long time. In fact, I'm completely with Rahul Gandhi for one reason. Rahul Gandhi's own office in Wayanad was attacked by the Students' Federation of India, that is the CPM student wing, which also attacked the Asianet office last year. So that attack is also condemnable completely. So we should not conflate these two terms. These two terms are distinct. We need to condemn any kind of attacks on the press, regardless of whether they come from the right or the left. The left is an enemy of the media. The left is as much of an enemy of the media as the extreme forces on the right who want bans, who want attacks on press freedom. So I think we need to keep that in mind and reduce the disproportionate influence that this term left liberal has acquired in our social space. And if you look at this attack on Asianet, ideally the social media timelines ought to have been full of that. But they are not, for the simple reason that the left wields this disproportionate influence. And one thing I'd like to say about Rahul Gandhi, unfortunately, is that while I completely support him where the attacks in Wayanad are concerned, I just heard him on your show now, saying, you were showing a clipping of him saying this is the new India, BBC.
Yeah.
Well, his grandmother was the first to ban BBC in India. And the first curtailment of press freedom in India happened in the early 1950s with the First Amendment, when Jawaharlal Nehru was the dominant prime minister. So historically, we've had a problem as far as press freedom in India is concerned, and we need to address this issue seriously and get it more into public discourse, like you're doing right now on the show.
Okay, but here's the thing, Ashutosh. There is great degree of intolerance for a free press, as Vaibhav is currently pointing out, on both ends of the spectrum, left and right. If in Kerala, the Asianet office is being raided, we know what happened with the Dainik Bhaskar office and why it was raided. They were critical of the government's handling of the COVID situation. They were calling out the fake figures, death figures that were being given by the government, and they called it out. So they were raided. So there is intolerance on both ends. I completely buy that. My question to you is, it seems that the media fraternity itself is so fragmented that you don't hear these protests loud enough, that when an Asianet is raided, there are no protests. Maybe there's a debate, but there are no protests, and the debate is usually one-sided. If the BBC is raided, again, there are no protests, but there's a debate, and largely the debate is one-sided. Is it because the media itself is fragmented ideologically?
Shreya, that's a gift of the new India, and that justifies and that rationalizes everything. The fact of the matter is, one wrong cannot justify another wrong. If Jawaharlal Nehru has done something, so what Mr. Modi is doing is equally justified, I don't buy that argument. And I go much deeper. I partly agree with Vaibhav when he talks about the left and the liberals. My point is very simple. Any kind of ideological state, whether it is left or right, whether it is Hitler's Germany, or it is Mussolini's Italy, or it is Stalin's USSR, or any government. Ideological states by its nature is intolerant. They don't accept, they don't tolerate any alternate viewpoint. And that's what we are seeing in this country also, because for the first time we are seeing the march of an ideological state in India. BJP and the RSS is representative of that ideological state. India before that was not an ideological state. Let me be very, very clear about it. If we are comparing oranges and apple, I think then we are committing a mistake. The kind of mainstreaming of the fringe today is happening in the media. That's eye-opener for everybody to see. The way the BJP government, the Mr. Modi, is being rationalized on everything. That's again amazing. How the media has totally surrendered before a government. I can understand this kind of surrender was seen during the emergency, but today that there is no emergency. But still, you day in and day out, you watch any TV channel except one or two. You watch anchors except one or two. The way they are behaving with the government, they are not asking a simple question to Mr. Modi. That is still is an eye opener. That does not mean that what the left front government has done in the Kerala is justified. No, I condemn it in the strongest possible word. But this has become a new thing, new normal in the country. And let's not forget it. You go to Bihar, you go to Delhi, you go to Punjab. Today, the state governments control so much media that they also dictate what kind of news should be on the front page. Correct. And which picture should be on the front page. The minute you don't do it, whether it is a Nitish Kumar government, whether it is Yogi government, whether it is Man's government or Arvind Kejriwal's government, immediately the advertisement will be withdrawn. So we have to live with this and we have to accept this. And what has happened with the Asianet, this is going to happen with each and everyone. And the last point which I want to make it, that why the journalist should have certain privileges. The simple reason, because the three pillars of the democracy, executive, they can arrest you any minute and you can't question them. The parliament, even the parliament can send you to jail immediately. The speaker has a right to send anybody to jail. Judiciary can book you anytime in the contempt of the court. But what rights we have? We do not have any right. That's why it's far more important that the agencies should be very careful where they are entering into. If you are entering into a media premises, that means you should have solid proof. If you do not have solid proof, if they are allowed to enter at a drop of a hat, then democracy cannot survive in this country, and democracy will not survive in any other country. The press should have that kind of privilege, but unfortunately we do not have, and that privilege space is shrinking on a daily basis. The person like me and you and all the panelists in this country, today we have to think twice what we are going to say. Whether we'll get a knock on my door at the 12 in the night or the 2 in the night. Somebody is writing on the Twitter and he can be booked. He can be in jail. So the Siddiq Kappan was in jail for good 2 years. Was it justified? Why it's happening? And this is not happening only with Siddiq Kappan. If you write anything about Mamata Banerjee, you are sent to jail. So this has happened with Amit Trivedi when the Manmohan Singh government was there. So I'm only saying is one wrong cannot justify another wrong. So if left liberal has committed certain mistake, that does not mean Modi and the BJP and the RSS have every right to do more and more and more.
Okay, I'll give the last word to Harshvardhan Tripathi. We started with him. Harshvardhan Tripathi, क्या ये अब नॉर्म है कि अगर आप टेलीविजन स्टूडियो में किसी भी मुसलमान को टेररिस्ट बोल दें, नो एक्शन अगेंस्ट यू, इट्स परफेक्टली ओके. आप जब तक भक्ति करते रहें तब तक ठीक है सब कुछ. जहां आपने सवाल पूछने शुरू किए वहां पे रेड होगी. वुड यू वांट टू रिस्पॉन्ड टू द लार्जर पॉइंट दैट हैज बीन मेड बाय आशुतोष?
नहीं श्रेया, मैंने शुरू में जो बात कही उसको शायद लगता है कि हमारे साथी जो पत्रकार है वो ठीक से समझ नहीं सके. मैं फिर से कह रहा हूं कि किसी सरकार ने पत्रकारों को कोई अधिकार नहीं दिया. फिर से दोहरा रहा हूं जिससे साफ साफ दर्शकों को भी आपके समझ में आए. किसी सरकार ने पत्रकारों के ऊपर रेड डालने में कोई कमी नहीं की. वैभव ने 1-2 इंसिडेंट्स किए. मैं लाइन मतलब ये शो खत्म हो जाएगा, खत्म ही हो रहा है. सवाल ये है कि क्या जर्नलिस्ट जर्नलिस्ट के ऊपर जब कोई हमला होता है, कोई सरकार कोई कार्रवाई करती, तो एक साथ खड़े दिखते हैं क्या? नहीं दिखते हैं। तब उनको लगता है कि ये
बिल्कुल
वाला
नहीं
वो
दिखते,
वाला जर्नलिस्ट
बिल्कुल नहीं दिखते।
अच्छा हुआ निपट गया। मुझे लगता है कि ये बेईमानी पत्रकारों को अपने अंदर से निकालनी पड़ेगी कि जब किसी खास मौके पर उन्हें मोदी सरकार को कहना है तब तो ठीक है, किसी खास मौके पर कम्युनिस्ट सरकार को कहना है तब तो ठीक है, वरना बरसों बरस बंगाल में मीडिया की रिपोर्ट्स ही नहीं आती रही। और उस वक्त जितने बड़े पत्रकार थे टीवी से लेकर अखबार में, वो क्या करते रहे? एक भी रिपोर्ट उस पर नहीं दिखाई। इसी तरह से देश के हर हिस्से में जो कुछ हुआ उसकी सही पिक्चर नहीं रखी देश के सामने। और पत्रकार तब भी लड़ रहा था, आज भी लड़ रहा है। चुनौतियां बहुत बड़ी हैं, लेकिन इंडिपेंडेंट जर्नलिज्म भी बहुत बड़ा है। और आज किसी भी सरकार की आंख में आंख डालकर पत्रकार ज्यादा दबाव के साथ बात कर रहा है। पुलिस आएगी तो देखेंगे, निपट लेंगे उससे। यही करने तो पत्रकारिता में आए थे ना। किसी सरकार, किसी मुख्यमंत्री, किसी प्रधानमंत्री से डर कर पत्रकारिता नहीं हो सकती।
लेकिन हर्षवर्धन त्रिपाठी, एक बात तो सारे पत्रकार आपसे कहेंगे, पता नहीं आपसे कहते हैं या नहीं कहते, लेकिन मुझसे तो जरूर कहते हैं। और मैं खुद अब केयरफुल हूं कि मैं सोशल मीडिया पे क्या बोलती हूं या क्या लिखती हूं या टेलीविजन पे आके क्या कहती हूं, क्या बोलती हूं। तो एक भय जो है वो तो सेट इन हुआ है मीडिया में, इसको आप मानिए। आप इंडिपेंडेंटली बेबाक अपनी बात बोल सकते हैं, लेकिन शायद मैं इंडिपेंडेंटली उस बाबकता से बात नहीं कर सकती।
नहीं, मुझे लगता है करना चाहिए। अगर आप एजेंडा नहीं चला रहे हैं, किसी पे पर्सनल कमेंट नहीं कर रहे हैं, किसी के खिलाफ कुछ बुरा नहीं बोल रहे हैं, आप खबर करिए। सरकार के खिलाफ अगर कुछ खबर है तो उसको खूब दबा कर करिए, सरकार को घुटनों पर ला दीजिए। बिल्कुल डरना नहीं चाहिए, क्योंकि पत्रकार होने का मतलब ही यही है। वो चाहे लेफ्ट हो, राइट हो, सेंटर हो, कांग्रेस हो, बीजेपी हो।
पत्रकार होने का मतलब तो ये है, that is the ideal situation, but we are not living in that ideal situation. We'll leave it there. This has been a good discussion. This wasn't pointed. I just wanted to know your views on what has happened to Asianet, what is happening to the free press, and what ultimately it means for the media's power to inform people. Because ultimately, we are accountable to just one section of people, not the netas, not the politician, not the PM, not the chief minister, but to the citizens of this country. So Ashutosh, we'll leave it there. Thank you for joining us. Vaibhav, good to have you on the show. Madhavan, Narayanan, always good to have you on the show. And Mr. Tripathi, you're making your debut here on Urban Debate. We hope to hear more from you and hope to have you on more panels. So thank you very much for joining us.